Hello, everyone. This is Alex Tremble, and this is the Executive Phil Podcast. As you know, this show, along with all of my speaking, coaching, and consulting services, are completely and laser focused on helping organizations and individuals prepare high performing leaders from all backgrounds to successfully transition to and excel in the vice president and senior vice president executive level positions. And if you and your organization are serious about developing diverse and highly effective executive leadership teams, one, you're in the right place. But two, I encourage you to visit alextremble.com or reach out to me at team@alextremble.com so that we can discuss how we can work together to help you and your organization reach its DEI and leadership development goals. Next, I got to tell you, the Executive Appeal is now one of the top 5% most popular shows in the world. It's freaking awesome. And this didn't happen by accident. It was because of you. You made this show what it is today, and it would be you who determines the continued success of this show. So please, if you enjoy this content, do click that like button. Please do click the share button. Please ask your questions and share your comments. These things truly do help promote the show and ensure that more and more people get to interact and hear this wonderful content. So, with no further ado, let me say today is a good day. See, today we have the wonderful Shari Fleming with us. Shari is an attorney and accredited estate planner focused on helping individuals and businesses build, protect, and preserve their wealth and legacy. She is the principal of the law office of Shari Fleming and serves as the planning giving officer at Bowie State University and is responsible for cultivating and soliciting of gifts involving estates, trusts, and other gifts that reflect deferred giving opportunities. Now, again, we only bring on the top-notch guests on this show, let me tell you. In 2021, Shari Fleming was named one of the Daily Record's 2021 Leadership in Law Generation honorees, and let me tell you, she deserves it. With no further ado, how are you doing today, madam?
I am well. That introduction was spectacular. I'm taking you everywhere on the road with me, okay? That's how I want to be introduced to the world. Thank you very much.
Let me tell you, look, I actually do MC, and so if y'all want to bring me to a conference, something like that, I'll keep the energy rocking.
Yes, yes. I thank you for having me. I'm like, is he talking about me? I guess he is talking about me. But thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It is a pleasure to be here with you, and I want to start us off on a very interesting note. I wouldn't say interesting. I'm going to throw this out here, and you feel free to jump in. Okay,
Mhm.
okay, let's do it. She works hard for her money, sweat and sweat. Hard for her money, sweat and sweat. Hard for her money. You better treat her right.
Absolutely.
So this is a weird opening, but I promise you it makes sense. So my question, the first question we're gonna get going with is, I think that you work hard for your money.
I do.
I know that I work hard for my money. I know the majority of listeners, probably almost every single one of them, work hard for their money. And so my assumption is that in the work that you do, you can't keep people away because I'm sure people don't want to just give their money away. They want to protect it. Is that what happens? Like you got so much clientele because people are like, nope, I work too hard for this. Is that what happens?
Yes, yes. So I first of all, let me start with I am a Maryland licensed attorney. I'm only licensed to practice law in Maryland, and nothing that I say here should constitute legal advice to you or any of your listeners. This is just an informal conversation. So should some legal information come out of my mouth, it is not advice, but information. Absolutely. So my clients who are Maryland residents as well as individuals who conduct business in Maryland, they typically have one main goal. For individuals, it is to preserve and protect their wealth for future generations. Yes, they do work hard for it. Honestly, some of my clients don't work as hard as others. They just have inherited. Uh, so that is something that I'm learning to get out of as I continue to age. We don't always have to work that hard for our money, but that's another conversation for another time.
Look, that's what I
But
need in my life.
individuals typically looking to transfer and protect their wealth for future generations. Businesses are typically smaller in scale, individual family owned businesses, and again looking to do the same thing, grow and scale their business, and then really protect from lawsuits, protect from back contracts, so they engage in real estate transactions. So I pretty much do the gamut, and I think more important for my family owned businesses and individual business owners is that they engage in business succession planning, which for them is part and parcel of their individual estate plans. There's so much that we saw happen through during COVID, because everybody had an LLC, and these
Hmm.
smaller family owned businesses, and COVID shook the legal world, at least in the area of businesses, in two places: commercial real estate, and then the lack of planning that a lot of family owned business owners, they didn't do it. And so when you had people, you have a pandemic and people are dropping like flies, how does business
Mm.
continuity look for these family owned businesses in Maryland? We have a considerable amount of farms, we have a lot of retail family businesses that are just, they're just in the business of doing the thing, selling the item, selling the goods, selling the service, not realizing that there is volatility there in the midst
Yeah,
of
yeah.
an emergency circumstance. So it's been an interesting ride over here.
One of the reasons I wanted to bring you on, and I had to, is because you're awesome. Obviously, everyone sees that. Easy, point blank. Two, I love your real talk. Like when I first met you, like you were challenging some assumptions, some ideas that, quite frankly, I don't think I wanted to be challenged. But when you did, it made me reconsider how to move forward. And so I want everyone to know, like if you're asking yourself, why did Alex bring her on this podcast when we're talking about leadership and how to be successful? Well, because I, unlike Sherry, most of the people I work with have not thought about this stuff, right? I work with a lot of executives and people who've done very well in their life, and they haven't thought of estate planning at all. I mean, if I'm being honest, I mean, I hadn't done it until Sherry brought it up to me, right? And so I'd love to just throw you an maybe an impossible question, but you know, why do people, what are the reasons that people give you for not engaging in estate planning?
Awesome. So here's the thing. I'm not shocked. I exist in a world where I follow the data, right? And so a little more than half of Americans, and this is all Americans, all cultures, all racial backgrounds included, a little less than half of Americans have wills. The will, it can be a component of an estate plan, but a comprehensive estate plan includes a lot more. It includes retirement planning, it includes long-term care planning. It does include a will, to pass your assets. It may include a trust. And so when you think about it, a little less than half, so half of the people I meet probably don't have an estate plan.
Hmm.
And then when you look at particular cultural communities, I think we're at like 26% of African Americans who have a will. Again, we're not even talking about a full plan, but who have a will. And so for me, it's not surprising that people do not have estate plans, and it doesn't matter, at least my experience, it doesn't matter with your economic social classes. You're just not going to have it, just looking at the data. So with that said, there are tons of reasons. The top reason, and I promise you, one of the lawyers have many titles. So you have lawyer, attorney,
Hmm.
advocate, all of these things. And being an estate planning attorney, my premier title is counselor. And I'm like, oh, I probably should go take a psychology class to really have some backing for this, because everything I say is assumption. Okay, I have no real backing for this. So really check with someone who understands the psychology behind all of
Yeah.
this. The number one reason I'll hear is I can't afford it. And I think that is a surface level reason. It's the easy thing to say that'll get someone off your back, right? I can't afford it. Okay. That's just not true. We all afford what we value.
Mm,
And
mm,
that's just that. I had someone in sales tell me that, and it was a gut check to me. We pay for what it is that we value. We value food, we value shelter. Some of us value clothing more than others. I value jewelry. I like gold and diamonds, okay? Precious metals. I value those things.
mhm,
I like designer bags. So we pay for what we value. We put more weight on some things than others. And so I can't afford it isn't a justification. What that says to me is this is not something that you've put value in, although you understand its need. So then my job and why I come on this podcast and why I do a lot of other speaking engagements is to really get people to understand the value of estate planning,
mm,
because you don't miss what you don't have. And so if you haven't been the beneficiary of a life insurance policy, or the beneficiary of an asset in a will, or the beneficiary of a trust, if you haven't been that, then you don't understand the value of giving that to someone else. But if you have, then you do. And so my job is to kind of get through the minutia. And the real issue, like I said, is not cost. It is a lack of understanding of value of the importance of estate planning. The second big, the second big reason is, well, I don't have anything to pass that no one will want it. And I go,
mm, mm.
and I'm immediately, I go, well, why do you have it? If you don't think anyone will want anything that you have or would want to receive your assets, why do you have it? Why did you work for it? Why did you accumulate it? Like, what is the point? And so, estate planning really, when I do it with my clients and when I speak to people, it's really more so of a conversation about the purpose of life. We got, like I said, counselor, we got really, really deep, because why are you existing here, spending money, accumulating things, purchasing a home, going to work every day to say
Mhm.
no one wants this? It doesn't make sense to me at all.
Yeah.
And yeah, it doesn't. So that, and I've always been naturally inquisitive, and I have three daughters who follow, well, at least two of them follow in that inquisitive footstep, where once I hear something, I'm like, well, why are we doing that? Like,
Yeah.
why don't you think you have anything to pass? And come to find out, when we start really getting granular in the tangible assets, the things that you can touch with your hand, um,
Mhm.
it a lot of things are triggers for people. The third reason, quite honestly, and I think this is the prime, the I may have said something else was the premier reason, but that's a lie. This is the premier reason, is that no one wants to face their mortality. We
Mm.
don't. As Americans, I don't think that we really do a good job. And I say as Americans because I'm beginning to study other cultures and how they deal with death, how they deal with estate planning, because it looks very different in other countries. And I'm studying this because, again, I'm inquisitive. I'm curious to see how other people do it. And I think that in this Western world, we really don't do well with death. There is a certain human arrogance that we are going to live forever, and we are just we just don't want to deal with it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
y'all
Yeah.
do know we all gonna walk up off this earth at some point. Like, death is the only certainty in life. Well, death and taxes. Those are the two guarantees in life that you will leave here. Because here's the thing: if you leave at a certain age, you probably never pay taxes. But you are going to leave this earth.
Yeah.
And so let's deal with that. Let's deal with who you're leaving, what you're leaving, and what your goals are in life. Because a lot of those things, I come to realize that a great plan mimics those things in death. So if you care for your family now, you want to provide to make sure that they're good when you're not here. Contrary is true. If you don't care now,
Mm.
you
Mm.
don't care. then. And we can talk about some other things. I'm non-judgmental. I just want to help you reach the goal.
You got me thinking about, and you said, "Do you care?" Right? I have two examples, not my family, but two examples of families. One family, there was some estate planning done prior to the person passing, and I spoke to this woman, and she said, "Oh my God, when I lost my mother, it was hard, obviously, but she said it was so much easier. When she passed, she had the brochures or those documents are created. Those are already created. She had picked the plot. He had paid for this, had transferred this. They had done everything. The only thing she had to do was grieve, right? Was to be there and have the opportunity to grieve.
Mhm.
As opposed to another family I know where there is no estate planning done. And that person they didn't think, oh, they don't have anything really, right? Well, yeah, there's a lot of legal documents that need to take place when someone passes. And now one of the children, they were stuck dealing with all those things for about a year and a half before
Mhm.
everything got concluded. Not even saying that the little bit of money that was still left in the bank account, that became an argument between siblings,
Mhm.
who gets what and why, and so on and so forth. And they didn't feel like they actually got the opportunity to grieve until like 5 or 6 years later because
Mhm.
they were just so busy. And so when you talk about the "do you care about your loved ones" thing, like that, I feel like that's something everyone to be asked right now. If you care, if do I care? And if I do care, then is it worth me spending a little bit of money right now, a little bit of energy right now to make sure they can actually grieve? Because it's not about me. It's about them,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm. And so I have this saying when I run into people and they give me pushback. I'm not doing that. And I say, you know what? Here's the way I see it. I see estate planning as your final act of love. It is the last
Mm,
gift.
yeah,
Well, what you transfer is a gift by
yeah,
law if you transfer it for, no trade or compensation. But the action is your last gift. It is your last hug. It is your last kiss. It is your last
wow,
embrace. It is your last gift that you can give your loved ones. And here's the thing, not just your loved ones, because let's be quite honest, everyone doesn't have a ton of people. Like I have a very large village and I'm blessed because of that. But I actually, just before recording this, I actually came from a funeral and it
hmm,
was a very
wow,
small gathering. A lot of us don't have a lot of people, but your final act of love can be towards community. It can be a philanthropic act. If you're giving, like you mentioned, I work for Bowie State University. It can be a philanthropic act to your college, your sorority, your mission, your place of worship. It could be
yeah,
anything. So because I think another misconception about estate planning can be related to how people view themselves in their family context. And so you have some people who may
oh
be the
wow,
black sheep of the family that's
yeah,
like, well, no one cares about me. And it's just like, well, this is not about that. This is what you care about, who you care about. And there are many of my clients with children, grandchildren, all of the other things that don't give them anything. And they give to
yeah.
those things and those purposes and those missions that they care about. And so estate planning is your final act of love. And it doesn't have to be exclusive to your biological or immediate family or your fictive kin, because we all have play cousins.
Hmm,
It doesn't have
hmm.
to be to those people, but it could be to your community and the groups of people in which you serve.
I want to talk about that really quickly for the audience. I feel like I'm Deadpool now, about to break the fourth wall. For all y'all in the world right now, if you know someone who's been through a death and there was some turmoil around because there wasn't planning, I'd love to just hear your thoughts in the comments section. And as opposed to also people who went through a death and experienced a death who did have structure, like how did that make you feel? How did that make the family come together? Did it make the family come together? So I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section. You talked about kinfolk, and you mentioned that before. I love kinfolk, and so one thing you talked about, and when you and I first met, is redefining estate planning.
Mhm.
A lot of people think estate planning is just about the dollars and cents and property. But you made a very interesting point that it's not just dollars and cents. You talked about it as being, hey, how is my hair going to be done? Am I going to, what kind of clothes am I going to be wearing as I'm in the hospital? Like, you made some very interesting points in regards to what estate planning is. Can you elaborate on that here for us today?
Yeah, yeah. So, a lot of my clients are, in the financial world, we talk about the high net worth people. I don't even know them, didn't grow up with them. I don't know who these people are. I don't represent them. A lot of my clients are middle class, moderate income, hardworking people. And a lot of the conversation that we have is about the transfer of assets because they do have significant wealth to transfer, but that's all they come to me knowing about. And so we have to have a broader conversation, because estate planning is death and disability. And I think a lot of the times we focus on the death, but not the disability. And because I do estate administration, which can be trust administration and probate, because I do, VA benefits, I'm accredited, I do Medicaid stuff. And I'm not saying this to toot my horn. I'm saying this to kind of give credence to experience. I do
Hmm.
function in a space where a lot of my clients have declining health or a time of incapacitation before they expire. And so I try to get people to really consider the quality of life that they want to have in the event that they are incapacitated. My father in law passed away a little over a year ago. He was on hospice care for 6 months. And this is something that we discussed, the type he battled cancer for a number of years. We had these conversations because I do have a paternal grandmother who is in a nursing facility in New York. She has dementia. And we had these conversations with the nursing facility staff because you got to keep her hair together. I don't want to FaceTime
Yes.
or, and she looking crazy. That's my grandmother needs to look like my grandmother. And so y'all need to make sure her hair is washed. It needs to be
Hmm.
braided. And for me, people laugh all the time. Getting my nails done is something I love to do. I literally got my first job because my mother let me get my nails done for the first time at 13. I got my first job at 14 with the sole purpose of keeping my nails done. When I got married and had my first kid, my husband was like, I don't know what's going on with you, but you better go, you do this for yourself because this is something you've done for
Hmm.
yourself.
Hmm.
That it is something that I value. It's something that I budget for. Every 2 weeks, I am going to get my nails done. I got them done yesterday because this is usually my nail time, and I'm on this podcast with you, right?
Thank
It
you.
That is how important it is to me, right? So in my advanced medical directive, y'all better make sure I have my nails done. I'm not playing. Make sure my nails are done. I'm not a fan of wigs, so make sure my hair is nice. I like braids. Make sure my mouth, I don't want no crust. Make sure I'm kept together. I spend a lot of time keeping myself together. Our presentation matters to me. I may be a little vain, and that's fine. It's who I am. But if I am ever in a space when I'm incapacitated, I want my nails to be done. I want urban jazz to play because it's what me and my
Mm,
husband play when we are preparing to go to bed because I
yeah.
have trouble falling asleep and it helps me. Urban jazz, I want urban jazz to play. My grandmother, I have about 25 blankets in here that my grandmother has crocheted from me from the time that I crocheted with her as a child into my adult life for my children. You better
Yeah.
find one of these blankets and put them on me because they smell like her. They
Yeah.
smell like us. Those things matter to me. And in places of incapacitation, you don't know what will bring someone's heart's joy when they're
Mhm.
unable to communicate with you. And
Yeah.
so these are a lot of things that we don't think about and we don't consider. And the people who are left here to care for us, they're figuring it out with no direction. And that's, again, an act of love is giving direction to those people so they're floating, they're free falling, they're trying to figure out how to manage their life and take care of you. And this is something new because they haven't had to do it before. Make it easy. Make it easy and just give them some instruction.
You know, everyone, if you're listening to the podcast, when you get a chance, shoot over to the YouTube and watch the full version so you can see these nails. She is slaying. I think that's still a term we can use, slaying. Um, and again, you talk about this the non-death piece, the medical piece. I heard about a woman recently I was talking to who her daughter was in a car accident. Her daughter was in a car accident. The daughter had just turned 19,
Mhm.
and mother is obviously like really upset, heading to the hospital, trying to figure out what's going on. Goes talk to the nurse, and daughter's an adult. They hadn't there's no legal documents saying that they can give information to that mother.
Mhm.
The woman was the daughter was incapacitated, so she couldn't do anything for herself. And so again, it just underscores like this is a difficult conversation to have if you really worry about that mortality. But again, it's not it's yes, in that piece it actually is about you. Like you want to make sure you have someone who you trust to make good decisions for you, versus someone who may just want to, hey, let's pull the plug because I got things to do. And I'll share one last really quick example. uh, uh, I won't put this person out, but someone close to me um, became very, very ill,
Mhm.
and they were in a hospital, and the doctor was like, look, they got maybe 2 weeks to live, right? um and they weren't cognizant or consciously there, just they weren't, and so the doctor said, well, do we resuscitate?
Mm.
And that split the family.
Mm.
Some people were like, no, you do whatever you can do to keep my blank, I'm not gonna put this person out there, my blank
Mhm.
alive. And the others are like, the doctor just said they're gonna be breaking ribs to try to bring them back alive. Like, let them pass. And man, like, how much pressure and how heavy is that to put it on someone else have to make this decision for you versus you making a decision yourself, saying, hey, look, if something happens, this is how I want it to be dealt with.
I get emotional a little bit when I talk about this because it's I want families, especially families of color, because I think we are least likely to have these conversations. We just don't have them. We are the best secret keepers ever. I want families to really make these types of conversations regular and reoccurring. When you get together for Thanksgiving, when you get together for Christmas, when my father-in-law, and when he was living, he would tell this story, and everybody would be like, "This is not funny. You two are laughing, but it's not funny." My father-in-law told us for the first time he was diagnosed with cancer in 2015, I believe. 2015. Yep. I had two of three daughters at that time. I think his daughter, my sister-in-law, had two or three. She might have had it's six girls, no boys over here. She might have had all three of her kids by then. But so we go up to Philadelphia because that's where they resided at the time. And he's like, I just want everyone around me. We're gonna have a barbecue. And I walk in the door and I'm like, where's the will? Where's the will? Where's the advanced medical directive? And he's
Mm.
like, I'm not leaving this earth today. I said that we don't, no one knows the hour or the time. I know you were diagnosed with cancer, but where is the documentation? Again, I'm the in-law, I'm the daughter-in-law, but I'm the bossy one who recognized really quickly. I just did an assessment and I looked at my husband, I looked at my sister-in-law and my mother-in-law, and they all have the capacity to do all, they're intelligent people. But I said, I feel like this is going to fall on my plate to kind of lead the charge a little bit. So let me
Mm.
just get a jump. And so I'm
Yeah.
like, where's the will? And it was rough, because my family, my side, my maternal paternal side of my family, we talk about everything. But my husband's side of the family, I noticed that they didn't really talk about stuff, and I would be the forceful one. And I'm like, listen, we got to talk about this stuff. And we did. And it was hard and it was rough. And it took acknowledging some things that no one wanted to acknowledge. And if you're going to have an attitude while he's living so he can give you some answers. And so, what I want family members to do is to begin to have the difficult discussions early. And so to that point, I did develop this like little difficult discussion guide I have available as a resource on my website with just information of questions that you should ask yourself about people who you may want
Mhm.
to serve in this capacity, and questions you can ask them if you're asking them to serve as a power of attorney or a healthcare agent or or personal representative in your will. There are some questions that you should ask them, mainly also not only to see if they're capable of being in that role, but to see if they want to. I find
Mhm.
that a lot of my clients, they name people who don't want to serve in that capacity because it may be too overwhelming. And you don't know, you don't get to any of these things or any of these answers unless you begin having the conversations up front. And so everyone in my family, they're over it. Every barbecue, every birthday, Father's Day, every friend's just coming over to hang out in the kitchen on the island. We have cocktails and food and we're laughing. And I'm like, okay, so quick question. If you became incapacitated today, who should I be calling? And my one girlfriend was like, you're a buzzkill. But it really, I'm telling you, it is the great conversation starter if
Mhm.
you can
Mhm.
have the conversation without the weight of being in the situation, because you can think freely to say, well, would I want that? Would I want to be
Yeah.
resuscitated? And my husband was very clear. He's like, listen, if I don't know what's going on, take me out of here. And my kids are like, what you mean, Dad? What you mean take you out of here? And my kids, 15, 13, and 5, we can have those conversations. And you know what I found, and I hope this helps somebody. My teenage children have a greater appreciation for us
Mhm.
because they're very clear that we're not going to be here forever.
Mm.
And we don't have to send you to private school, and we don't have to buy you nice things, and we don't have to have family dinner. We don't have to spend time being together. We don't have to do this. Everyone can go their own way. We can live separately, but they understand as 13 and 15 that we're not going to be a family of 5 like this forever. I'm going to go to college. My sister's going to go to college. We're going to start our own families. Mommy and daddy can't wait for us to get out so they can live their best lives. Like, they're very clear
Yeah.
because we have these conversations that time is what's the currency in my house. And I love that they value time, they value family dinner, they value that. They get off their phones and they say, I can't hang out with you tonight, I can't go to the movies because I said I'm going to do this with my family. What teenagers do that? And they do it of their own volition.
Yeah.
But I think part of it is because we have done a decent job at saying time is a gift,
Yeah.
and let's spend it this way if we can. And so I encourage people who are unwilling or unable or have any barriers to one, go to therapy. For real, this Alex said I speak the truth, and all of you will see. One, if you come to me, the first thing I'm gonna ask is, do you have a therapist? Because we gonna talk about some things.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
not a licensed counselor. And so get into a space where you can have the difficult conversation, the difficult discussion first with yourself, thinking about what you want, who you are, what you're here for, what your purpose is, and what you want to leave. I want a footprint to say I've been here. I've been here for 39 years, and for 39 years, you're gonna know that I'm here. I want to leave my footprint, and I hope I get 39 more, right? Have the discussion with yourself. And after you have gotten settled with yourself, then begin to have those very difficult discussions with other people, namely those people who you support and you believe you will need to support you. The one thing that I do want to say, Alex, I do a lot of small group sessions for caregivers, a lot of small church groups. And I did a session last night, and one of the women she's hilarious and she has a considerable amount of assets. She's a single woman. And she said, you know what, Shari, this is about my fourth session with you. Fourth session, because she leads
Mhm.
these sessions. And she said, I just started thinking last night, who is going to take care of me? Because it was about long-term care planning.
Mm.
Who is going to take care of me. And I told her, I said, listen, well, I can rent you a child if you want. I can rent you one of mine. But it's the conversation, the difficult conversation you have to first have with yourself. As I age, what do I have? Who do I have? Who can I rely on? No one is an island unto themselves. And so we have to have conversations about who our village is.
I want to share two quick things, and I want to slip in another question before we get rolling. To the first thing is, oh, you talked about the family having a conversation about how things will happen if someone gets sick,
Mhm.
and I have someone I used to work with years ago told me about what happened to her, and she was like, look, my husband was sick, really, really, really sick. Doctor gave him so many, like a year or something like that to live. He didn't tell us that he was sick until about 3 or 4 months before he passed.
Mm.
And she was so mad. She was so mad. And he said that he didn't tell him because he said he had finally come to like he come to accept it. And he didn't want to go and spend his life like, needles and more drugs and this and that. He just wanted to spend his life, the rest he had, with them living a normal life.
Mhm.
I'm not saying what is wrong or right, but the point is there was evidently at least some bit of lack of trust that someone would respect the other person's wishes. And so that was a conversation that I also wish they would have had earlier so that
Mm.
someone didn't have to hide it and then kind of force the situation.
Mhm.
Um, the second is, oh man, what was the last thing you talked about? Last thing you talked about, um, gosh darn it. Okay, hope, huh?
The last thing that I talked about was having conversations with
Oh,
yourself, with other people.
so to that point, I've been talking to more because people probably know this, but more and more people are actually deciding, making intentional decisions not to have kids, and
Mhm.
that's cool. Everyone has their thing. I've been talking to more and more leaders who had made that decision, who are now older, and it's just now clicking. Oh shoot, who's going to take care of me?
Mhm.
And again, that doesn't make it doesn't mean that everyone needs to have kids, and the kids shouldn't be just for taking care of you. But you need to then still have a plan for
Plan.
how you're going to be taken care of. So I love that you brought that up, and I want to throw. You can comment on that, but I also just want to ask you really quickly about the organization that you created, the Our Legacy Matters community, and I'd love you to talk a little about that before we start wrapping up.
Awesome. So I started Our Legacy Matters because coming into the estate planning industry, I had a Caucasian male basically tell me that I wasn't going to be successful in estate planning because people of color
Mm,
didn't estate plan and didn't have wealth to transfer. I'm saying it quite mildly. Didn't have wealth to transfer, and I took it as a personal challenge.
mhm,
And what I realized is that there was, and still very much is, a lack of cultural competency in this particular industry. Again, understanding what is of value and what isn't of value
mhm,
for different cultures and different communities. And so my goal in with Our Legacy Matters is really to provide an awareness of the value estate planning within communities of color. I don't think that this industry has done a good job at speaking our language. There's a language that we have, there's a swag that we have. There are, there's magic over here. Like Black Girl
yeah,
Magic
yeah.
didn't just come up, right? There's magic that we have that we know of, fireworks and glitter all over the place that we in communities of color, we know we try to harness and we don't want to share. But in that, there is a lack of understanding, a cultural competency that is missing in an
Mhm,
industry where we really aren't in this industry at all. I don't even think the data exists for how many estate planners of color exist. So, for example, in the legal community, less than 5% of all lawyers are Black. So when you
God.
get into a wealth and finance focused field of law, the data doesn't even exist. I'm on an estate planning council where the data exists for CPAs. Like we were trying to figure it out, and I was like, the data isn't even available, right? And so imagine now you have a whole group of people with wealth. What is it? People of color, I think it's like 1.2 or 1.3 trillion dollars that we spend in the
Mhm,
consumer space. So we
mhm.
have stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
it's really understanding how to give us the information, how to share, how to educate, how to highlight what is of value. And so that's what I do in Our Legacy Matters. And it is not exclusive to people of color. It is where I provide vetted information. It's kind of because I have people, I'm the first one to go to graduate from college. I'm the first one to graduate from law school. And so, again, fictive kin, everyone who has my number, hey, I got a question. I'm not licensed in your state. I can't answer your question. And so it's a way for people to really get vetted information in the estate planning, retirement planning, long-term care planning space, because Google is not our friend. It hasn't been our friend. We need to stop. We need to stop with the Google. We need to stop with the prepaid legal. I don't want to name too
Yeah.
many services because I don't want to get sued. But those things don't serve us because they don't understand the culture that we have, the language that we use to express those desires that we have. And so that's what the space is really for. Is it's a translation of information in a way that works for us. I'm clarifying a lot of I just added a FAQ because I was just like, I can't. Some of these things, they come up, repeated questions come up. So I added a FAQ section. But essentially, if you go to money and memories, money is singular, memories is plural, moneyandmemories.com. It's a private website. You don't have to pay, you just join. And from time to time, it's equivalent to like a blog, but also a place where you can submit your questions. And to the extent that I can answer the questions, I will. Again, not legal advice. To the extent that I can refer you, because most of the people in there aren't even in Maryland. So to the extent that I can kind of steer you in the right direction, not to just anyone, but someone who can provide you culturally competent professional services. That's what my goal is, because I find even when I'm doing estate administration, or I'm doing maybe a second iteration of somebody's estate plan, they've already had one, they want to update it because there are many reasons why it's not sit it and forget it. And so they come back to me and I'm like, who did this? Like, who did it? Did they ask you? What questions did they ask you? And there are questions that, with the lack of cultural understanding, some professionals will never even ask. They won't even ask. And to me, it's a simple, logical question like,
Yeah.
is this really your brother?
Is there? I knew you were about to say that. Is this really? Yeah, that's my brother. No, I mean, but really though.
No, really, like one of the two of your parents are, because we understand historically
Mhm,
we are a people who have been displaced. Our families have been disjointed. We have, in a lot of situations, more fictive kin than
mhm,
we have biological kin. But in our everyday
mhm,
communication, we are referring to these individuals as
mhm,
if we're related. And it's not an anomaly. We're not stupid because of it. We're very intelligent. But this is the world in which we have lived for generations that other cultures just do not
mhm,
understand. And you see it, and not just in the legal, you see it in policing, you see it in education. And so, as a professional of color in this industry, I feel a burden, a weight, a
yeah.
responsibility to kind of close this gap, of the information gap, which is also translates to the racial wealth gap that exists. And so it's a racial wealth gap. It's also an information gap. And I'm trying to be a bridge here.
Well, look, I know that we have to, our time has come to a close, especially because I think you mentioned some before this that you had to jump off and jump on a three-way conversation between you, Oprah, and the Obamas.
I wish.
So I wanted to just open the floor back up to you. Is there any final thoughts, ideas, anything you'd like to share with our audience as we begin to wrap up?
Yes, I've been thinking. I just want everyone to understand that they are worthy enough
Mhm.
to plan for themselves and for their loved ones. You're worthy. Not only are you are worthy, but you're valuable. You have ideas to share. There are a lot of prospective clients that I see that have intellectual property that should be protected, that can be transferred to generations. I've seen manuscripts written by grandparents that were never published. That's intellectual property that has been passed down to another generation that could be a wealth source for them. And so I really, really want every listener to really have a clearer understanding of worth and of value, and to understand that everything isn't about a dollar amount. A lot is, but their time is a currency that we do not get back, that we waste all of the time. So I want families to have difficult conversations. I want individuals to know their worth. And I want people to get accurate information that they can act upon to
Mhm.
be better and do better. And so I just thank you for having me. I want our leaders to lead and not focus so much. Understand that estate planning and business succession planning are a part of leadership. It's a part of leadership, not just the way that you treat your staff, not just your gross revenues and the way that you grow your business, but also planning for your succession, building up the next leader. That is a part of leadership. And failing to do so is failing to lead.
Mm. Everyone, I'm gonna ask you a question right now. If you felt this was helpful content, please put it in the chat box. Please comment. Please like. Please share. Because this is what I need to know if this is what you want to keep. Do you want to keep having phenomenal, awesome guests like this, or do you want me to come on every other week and sing a song? We'll figure this out. We'll see what happens. Hey, Shari, thank you so much. Thank you so much for spending your time with us here today. I know you have a million things to be doing, and you made the decision to be here today to share this information. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Everyone, you know where I'm going with this. If you found anything of value today, don't keep it to yourself. Don't say that person over there should have been here. Don't just look back, reach back. Bring someone else to this table. Bring this content to them. Bring them to the content. Again, don't let information that you found valuable, that you felt that it hit your spirit a certain type of way, it's going to make you do things and go through life differently. If you found this that meant something to you, I promise you it means someone else. So don't this is an act of love. Sharing this is an act of love. Yes, I love it. I love it. I love it. And look, everyone, again, thank you so much for making the podcast what it is. Thank you for making this show what it is. Find me on alextremble.com. Find me on YouTube. Always click like, share, all the good stuff. As always, stay strong, stay positive, and definitely stay moving. See ya. Thanks for listening to The Executive Appeal with Alex Tremble. I invite you to follow The Executive Appeal wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow me, your host, Alex Tremble, across all socials or via email for exclusive webinars, courses, and speaking engagements on continued topics of executive leadership. So until next time, stay strong, stay positive, and definitely stay moving.